Hi dear students, welcome to one more session of microbiology, and today we're going to talk about the microbe-plant interactions. Every living form, if we consider on the earth, it always has an interaction with various other forms. All the living forms interact in one way or the other with macroscopic as well as microscopic forms, and unless and until these interactions do not exist, the food chain will not be able to be completed. And you can see that the balance of the ecosystem is being based upon various interactions which happen between microscopic as well as macroscopic elements of the food chain. And the microbe and a plant interaction is one such interaction which is quite indispensable and which plays a very important role for all the biogeochemical cycles. And some of these interactions which happen between the plant and the microbe is being considered to be positive in nature. That is, by such association, sometimes a plant gets a positive effect. That is, it is able to get a nutrient, or it is able to grow rapidly, or it is able to get some other beneficial properties by positive interactions between the microbes. But at the same time, some of the interactions between the microbe and the plant could give a negative impact on the plant, or in other words, it could be negative interactions also. So if you're going to consider all the type of interactions which happen between the plant and the microbes, as I mentioned earlier, sometimes positive interactions can happen, sometimes it could have negative interactions also. And sometimes we can find that many of these microbe-plant interactions will be commensalistic in nature. Now, what do you mean by commensalistic? That is, the microbe is not harming the plant, but the microbe gets an advantage from the plant. And there are also other interactions where symbiotic or mutualistic interactions happen, where both the microbe as well as the plant gets a positive effect. And you can also have another interactions like where pathogens grow on the plants, causing diseases in the plant, and some of them can even parasitize the plant host also. So the interactions which happen between the plants do vary. If you go to consider a plant, you can see that it mainly consists of two different elements. It will have an aerial shoot, and it could also have a underground root system. The environment surrounding the aerial shoot of or the aerial parts of a plant is referred to as phyllosphere, and the environment surrounding the root or the underground elements of the plant is referred to as a rhizosphere. And you can see that both in the phyllosphere as well as in the rhizosphere, various microbes do grow. Some of them would be positive in nature, and some of them could be negative in nature also. So the positive ones have been shown in blue color here, and negative ones or the pathogenic ones are shown as red in color. So you can see that when you look into the phyllosphere, both beneficial organisms have been associated as well as negative or pathogenic organisms also can be associated. At the same time, if you look into the rhizosphere also, you could have beneficial organisms associated with the plant as well as pathogenic or negative interacting organisms could also be found in the rhizosphere. And all the plant microbe interactions, it mainly happens by a two-way signaling process in which initially the plant will produce some chemicals or high molecular weight as well as low molecular weight signaling molecules out from its roots, so that various microbes will happen to get the signals. All the plant microbe interactions are as a result of such interactions or such signaling which happens between the plant and the microbes. So the plant will produce some molecules which will attract the beneficial microbes towards itself, and it will also produce certain other compounds which will inhibit or repel the pathogenic microorganisms. So a balance between these two interactions, the beneficial microbes as well as the pathogenic or the negative interactions between the plants and the microbes, determines the healthiness of the plant. If you go to look into the plant again, you can see that there are certain microorganisms which have been found only on the surface of the plant. And there could be also some microorganisms which can enter into the cells of the plant and live in the plant tissue. Those organisms which live on the surface of the plant rather than penetrating into the plant, they are referred to as the epiphytic organisms. The term phytic means refers to plant. So if a microbe is being found associated on the surface of a plant, it is called a epiphytic microorganism. But if a microbe is piercing and penetrating into the plant tissue and living inside in it, it is referred to as an endophytic organism. You can find that both epiphytes as well as endophytes are being found to be prevalent, and they do contribute to various properties of the plant. You can see that most of the properties of the plants are being coded by endophytic microbes. Now, I can give you an example. If you have a plant which is being found to be anti-inflammatory in action, you can find that there would be various endophytes which are being found to be associated with it, which would also have endophytic properties. And there's a big branch of biology which deals with endophytes associated with plants to explore and to find out which all microbes could contribute towards the properties of the plants. That is, which all endophytes could contribute to the properties of various plants. Sometimes you can see that the anti-inflammatory or anti-diabetic property of a plant is also being coded or is also being shown by the microbes or endophytic microbes which have been found associated with the same plant. So now we're just talking about what is the difference between rhizosphere and phyllosphere. We had already mentioned that. The environment of the aerial portion of a plant is called the phyllosphere. And here in the phyllosphere, we can see a wide range of microbes. They could be bacteria, they could be filamentous fungi, they could be yeasts, and sometimes even photosynthetic as well as heterotrophic protists can be associated with the phyllosphere. And if you go to look into the rhizosphere is a region or the environment around the roots, and the surface of the root is called as a rhizoplane. Both the rhizosphere and the rhizoplane are being found associated with a wide range of microbes, and it has been found that the presence of these microbes in the rhizosphere and the rhizoplane makes available to the plant various nutrients as well as substrates as well as water. So a better nutritive availability is possible at the rhizosphere and the rhizoplane due to the presence of various microbes. Now, how does that act, or how is it possible? These microbes will produce large amount of sometimes hormones, or sometimes they might even produce various metabolites like enzymes, and these enzymes all will help the plant to degrade the available nutrients and utilize it. If you go to consider the aerial parts of the plant, you can see we call it as a phyllosphere. This philosphere itself can be divided into various parts. Now, it can be called as the anthosphere when the environment surrounding the flower, and it could be called as a carposphere when it is the environment associated to the fruits, and it can also be considered to be as a spermosphere when we consider the environment surrounding the seeds, and the caulosphere is called for the environment associated with the stem, and then the surface of the leaf is called as a phylloplane. So all these together contribute towards a phyllosphere or the aerial part of the plant. And every part of the phyllosphere is being found to be associated to with different type of microbes, and they all contribute to the what beneficial interactions could happen within the plant. But at the same time, we can see that in some plants, sometimes the flowers or the fruits or the leaves would be getting diseased or degraded or decomposed even when the plant is healthy. That could be the presence of certain harmful microbes also. And let me ask you something. Is the phyllosphere a hostile environment? Normally, we have a concept that when a microbe is living on the phyllosphere of the plant, we do expect that the phyllosphere is a hostile or a good environment promoting the growth of the microorganism. But we can see that when a microbe is being found associated with a phyllosphere, it is in turn getting exposed to large amount of UV rays, as well as various drastic environmental conditions could also be happen when a plant is growing. So, in such cases, compared to the rhizosphere, the phyllosphere is not a hostile environment. And the organisms which thrive on the phyllosphere should be capable of withstanding such stresses caused by the UV rays as well as various other environmental factors, and they should thrive or they should survive all these environmental factors to grow efficiently on the phyllosphere. And we can see that various proteobacteria such as Pseudomonas aeruginosa, Pseudomonas syringae, and Erwinia and Pantova are being considered to be as the most predominant microbes which have been found on the phyllosphere. Something else which is of importance in the case of phyllosphere is the presence of a bacteria called Sphingomonas. Now, when we go outside into the sun, we all have a tendency to put sunscreen lotions to protect ourselves from the UV rays. But the plant is always exposed to the UV rays because it needs energy, it needs to trap energy, and only if it traps energy, it can do this process of photosynthesis. But we know UV rays are not good, but the plant is still protected from the UV rays. Now, how is it protected? It's mainly due to the presence of a bacteria called the Sphingomonas, which will produce large amounts of pigments. Okay, what pigments? The pigments which would help, which will act as sunscreen. Okay, to protect the plant from the UV radiations. So, Sphingomonas is a natural sunscreen producer of the plant, protecting it from the UV irradiation. And this bacteria can be found in the common soils as well as in the waters, and they usually occur at the number of about 10 raised to 8 cells per gram of the plant tissue. And most of them represent the culturable species. So I hope you got a better understanding about the Phyllosphere, and we will be continuing with the Rhizosphere in the next session. Thank you for now.